That's my guest, Louis C.K. and Doug Stanhope in an episode of Louis C.K.'s FX series, Louie. Have you been in that position where somebody's told you that they want to kill themselves and you have to decide what are you supposed to do with that?
Well, it's a scary thing to ponder, but it's emotional to hear that clip now because, I wrote that about a lot of comedians I knew coming up. And comedy and show business are very cruel, and they don't have a nice way of saying no or goodbye, And a lot of guys live really tough lives in this racket. And I've known a lot of them and come up with some of them, and some have made it, some haven't. And, the idea of somebody saying to you, look me in the eye and tell me I have a reason to live, it's terrifying to think, what if I fail them in that moment? And Doug Stanhope is somebody I've known for a lot of years, not well, but I've always known him. We've traveled the same paths, and I love Doug. I have real affection for him. And, he doesn't take very good care of himself, and he, medicates himself in many different ways. And I've always been scared for him. I've always been afraid that he's going to let himself go and die. And
So you sent him the script in which he wants to kill himself. How did he react to that?
Well, when I've felt that fear about Doug for a lot of years, and then I look at what he writes on his website, and I've listened to him, and I realize that there's something narcissistic in my fear. You know what I mean? Like, he's taking care of himself, and he's making his choices as a grown-up. And so that was sort of an evolution of thinking for me. But then the reason I guess it's emotional now is because I lost my friend Patrice. Sorry.
No, that's okay. This is the comic who... You want to take a break for a second?
No, it's okay.
Okay, this is the comic
Patrice...
You dedicated your special to him. And
Patrice died of, in a diabetic coma. And he didn't take good care of himself. And there's part of me that is, upset with him for not taking care of himself, because he took himself away from us. So I guess to me, it's like, it's funny to hear that now and,
Well, you wrote that before this happened, so...
Yeah.
You certainly weren't thinking about his death.
No, not at all. And, it's just funny because I had such a different perspective on that issue of like someone's not taking care of themselves. Someone's not keeping themselves safe. And what is your role in that? And the anger I feel towards Doug in that scene is the kind of anger I feel about Patrice now that he's gone. So it's interesting to look back on it because the place I took myself in that scene, as I was writing it, I didn't know where it was going. I knew I wanted to stand on that street and have him give me that news, and I didn't know where I wanted it to go. So I started writing to him my argument, why not to kill yourself? And as I was writing it, I realized for this argument to succeed would be really gross. For me to be the guy who gives him the reason to live is so self-serving. And that the fact that I was even attempting it on paper, I was embarrassed alone in a room. And so the way that the path I found to the truth of the scene for me was having Doug be the one to tell me how full of crap I was for trying it. So in other words, as I was sitting there typing, here's why you shouldn't kill yourself, I stopped and said to myself, oh my God, congratulations, you pig. Who do you think you are? And so then I had Doug basically say that. And, Doug is a lot more together than any of the people that I'm asking him to play there. Doug has a real career, and he's a great comedian. He's one of the best. And I didn't know he could act. He's never acted in his life. That's the first thing he ever acted in, really. And I had called him, and I said, I wrote this thing. It's kind of an amalgam of a lot of guys, and your voice would sound great doing it. Do you want to do it? And he said, I can't act. He told me right away, I can't do it. And I said, I didn't ask you if you can. What I'm asking is, do you want to? And he said, well, yes, I do want to. And I thought, well, that desire will make it work, The crazy thing is that I was so exhausted when we shot that episode. It was one of the last things we shot. I was so strung out. I didn't know any of my lines. I was depressed. I was just really not in good shape. And Doug came so prepared, and he was the best. I'm going to say he's the best actor I had on the season.
When you hire a Doug Stanhope to be in your show, do you audition him? Because we don't know that he's a good actor.
No idea. As a matter of fact, when I wrote the part for Doug.
Right.
So I called him up, and he was somewhere out in the wild road. And I said, I wrote this part for you for my show. And he immediately said, I can't act, and I'll fuck it up. And
I love that.
It'll be a total mistake for you to hire me.
Isn't that great? Don't you love a guy like that?
Yeah, of course.
You got to love a guy who, in showbiz, you think everybody wants every job.
That's right.
He's like, fuck you. I don't want to lose.
Well, he didn't say I don't want to. He said, I don't think I could do it. He said, I would fuck it up. So then I asked him, I said, I'm asking you a question. Do you want it? If I gave it to you, would you want that?
Right.
And he paused and he said, yeah, I actually would. I said, well, you would like to try to do this? And he said, I really would. And I said, that's all I need to know. So.
And so when he came on set, was he tight when he...
So I've worked with comedians that don't act a lot. That's a big part of what I've done.
Right.
And so I figure I'm going to have to get him through this, especially since he's insecure.
Right.
It's going to be a moment to like it's going to be a grind. But I made a lot of time to shoot the episode.
But isn't that a big fucking burden, not only on you, but also, good actors can bring so much to a character.
Comedians bring something that actors don't have.
What do they have that
actors, you have to make them believe everything's going great. You have to make them feel comfortable.
Right.
You have to tell them that was so great.
Is that right?
Well, it's a generalization, but it's usually true.
Right.
But comedians work in adverse. Most comedians expect not to do right.
They're pushing uphill.
Yeah. So they respond to pressure. So you can go up to a comedian in front of the whole crew and say, you are destroying this show. You're killing me. You suck so bad. And I need you to fucking focus and do this better. And then they just get clear-eyed and they go, got it. And then they get better.
I understand that.
Always.
I understand that.
But so Doug, I thought I'm going to have to push him through this. And was one of the last things we shot. And it was cold. It was all nighttime exterior stuff. And I was exhausted.
And he sucked.
I was personally kind of destroyed. I had a bad week.
Right.
And so I'm like, I don't want to fucking do this with Doug Stanhope. And he was prepared, focused, ready. He was incredibly good. He was
wow.
So you didn't have to tell him. You didn't have to tell him he sucked.
He helped me. I remember sitting in a car with him, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, Doug. And he goes, "It's okay. This is easy. I say this, then you say." Like he helped. He did to me what I was going to do to him.
What is the difference in writing a script? I'll tell you why you're thriving about this.